Hi, everybody. I'm Traven Rice, and I'm the co-founder and arts and culture editor of The Lowdown. This is the Lowdown Culture Cast, and we talk to culture changers of all types. And sometimes that means talking with people who might have been around for a long time, but are still here contributing to culture in wonderful ways and very important ways. And I'm really excited today to be speaking with the team from the film that just came out, Veselka, the rainbow on the corner at the center of the world. I'm speaking with filmmaker Michael Fiore and the two leads of the documentary, not to mention owners of Veselka. Second, third generation?
Yes.
Yes. No small feat. So I'm here on Orchard Street at P&T Knitwear, and I want to hear all about this documentary. The owner, Tom Birchard, and son, also owner. Do you say co-owners or?
I want to give him his proper credit. I mean, he's since retired, but he's still a consigliatory figure and advisor. But I'm third generation proprietor at the moment.
Okay, and that's Jason. Hi. Very nice to meet you guys. So I just saw the film, and it is screening right now, limited release in New York and LA.
And New Jersey.
And New Jersey. Excellent. So we want to encourage everybody to go out and see it. It's been extended here for another week, and we're hoping perhaps more.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I want to hear about how this all came out. The film, it's a documentary about the restaurant. And if you don't know Veselka, it's a Ukrainian restaurant on 2nd Avenue and East 9th Street. Been here for many decades. It's very beloved by downtowners and Lower East Siders and people in the East Village. And when I first moved to New York, it was one of the very first spots I went and felt welcome and felt like, oh, I'm in New York and I'm a New Yorker now. And I know many people feel that way. And I know many people feel like I could go there by myself. I could go there at any time. It's just a spot that you would run into all different types of people. And it was an exciting kind of down-to-earth spot. And it still is. So that's what makes it really special, in my opinion. So I want to hear about the story. And now, obviously, it's always a cultivated community, this location. But with the war breaking out, there's even more community going on. So how did this idea start for the documentary?
So I went to NYU Film School, which neighbors Little Ukraine, and I've been going to the restaurant for over 20 years. I was introduced to Tom and Jason through mutual colleagues in November of 2021. And I knew the back of the menu, three-generation story, the storefront being started by Tom's father-in-law, Jason's grandfather, Volodymyr Darmakwal. And it was a place of refuge for displaced Ukrainians after World War II. And I sat down with Tom and Jason in November to pitch really what's remained, which is a father-son themed story, kind of also dissecting the handoff of the business from Tom to Jason. And they were talking about doing a renovation. So it was a changing of the guard story and looking at the past.
When did you say that was? You
November of 2021.
2021.
So the war wasn't a glimmer in anybody's eye. And they liked the idea. Jason privately was telling me he really liked the idea, unbeknownst to Tom, because he wanted something that if this was going to happen, they would pay homage to Tom for all the years and sweat and love he put into creating the business as we know it today. And everybody kind of sat on it for a while, and then when the war started to percolate and you'd hear on the news that this could happen any day, I emailed Tom and Jason and said, with how the business was started, if this war happens, there would be parallels that we should look at. And any business could tell their story at any time, but I felt like this was the time. And it goes beyond just doing like a cable cooking show or special. It was a deep dive into humanity and people and compassion and what makes Veselka. It goes beyond food. and they agreed, but we wanted to travel lightly and not just like dive in on day one of the war. So we kind of felt things out, and the first day we filmed was day 11 of the war, and that's act 1 of the movie.
Wow. I have to just mention that today actually is also kind of a dramatic day to be talking as far as, the funeral of Navalny.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I just noticed that. So I just had to mention it. I was like, whoa, that's sort of powerful.
And this week as a whole, because the 2-year commemoration of the war was last Saturday.
Yeah. So the New York Times review says that the film starts as a fun story about a New York institution, and its tone is resolutely hopeful and convivial, but it rapidly becomes a demonstration of a community's effort to support loved ones under siege, and that makes it much richer and fuller than it might otherwise have been. That's exactly what it does, in my opinion. It starts out as this light, wonderful story about this amazing history and family business, and that has already created community. And I had no idea there were that many Ukrainians back then, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a lot in the neighborhood. But then what a roller coaster ride it goes on after that. And how has that been for you two as the business owners?
Maybe Tom can attest to the past history, but it's been a whirlwind since the invasion of Ukraine. But Tom has gone through so much in bringing the business to where it is today. So maybe he can attest to where it's been, and then I can follow up with where we've been the last 2 years.
Well, I would say that my father-in-law, even in my very early days in the '60s, had a history of helping fellow Ukrainian immigrants. It seemed like there were always Polish and Ukrainian people coming into the neighborhood and looking for work, and he did his best to help them. We always had a rich staff of recent immigrants from Eastern Europe, so the groundwork was kind of set.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, our valued employees, I've had the opportunity, the privilege of sponsoring them and helping them settle in America. It's a very, very complicated process, but so when the war started and we had an opportunity, the government made it much easier to bring people over and help them escape the war zones. So we had a history of doing that, and we continued.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in the movie, I won't give away too much. I mean, we've over the course of the years of being in business, we've had some key employees that we would help with their legal documents, and it was a handful, and it was a long process, costly. But with the recent invasion 2 years ago, the current administration created a program called United for Ukraine, and everything was done online. And as long as you can prove support and that you would account for whatever financial support for housing, or there's a document saying that you would you would help this refugee, come here with some backing, or and it goes back to my grandfather, when he arrived here in 1950, was supported by an American family. So I thought, what way better to, when my staff came to me and said, "Can you help me?" And they told me about this program, it became, just a matter of fact, and making 10 applications, and 9 of those applications now working in the restaurant happily. I mean, this is not a forced labor camp. They're just happy to be here, happy to contribute. As you can see in the film, it's a social network. I mean, we're a happy family of sorts. I mean, an extended family. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say Mike has now become part of our family after documenting and being with us for over a year. So, I mean, that's the backstory on.
Thank you.
Luckily, Michael, right? I mean, it doesn't always go that way, does it?
I've been very fortunate, actually. In the 2 docs I've made, both groups of stories and subject matter and all the people, we've all become family. So maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know.
No, Mike definitely has that personality, or to get the most out of people. I mean, he can tell you that one of the worst there's an adage you don't film with, what'd you say? Don't film with babies. You don't film with animals. You don't film on water, and you don't film in busy restaurants. But he got a lot out of people. I mean, I'm typically a very private person, and I can tell you my father is too. But when he was able to make us feel at ease to tell our story naturally and organically, and you meet my staff who normally don't speak, and Mike made it didn't feel like it was you were on stage or anything. Had a very small crew. It was very respectful of people's space and time. So it was a true project of love.
Thank you.
And did it keep unfolding because you had an initial plan and then you realized, the timing is really important probably right now, but how do you sort of navigate the scope? You're so embedded and like there with them and things keep happening. So how do you know?
So my dad is a retired orthopedic surgeon, and I grew up in a house where he was on call all the time. And I can compare the last 2 years to what it was like watching my dad. I was on call to Jason. I would tell him, we would talk on the phone. I'd be like, I'm yours all week. Just call me as soon as something pops up. Because I couldn't be there every day. So it was the kind of thing where he would kind of let me know ahead of a week of like, is the mayor coming? Or, like that, just using that as an example.
Which he did, by the way.
Yes. But yeah, I would kind of get an idea of week to week. But then sometimes he'd call me the night before and say, oh my gosh, this is happening. Please come by tomorrow. And I'd have to call the crew and say, let's do this. We got to, rally. But yeah, it's just like writing anything. You do write a beat sheet when you start. And I had proposed like initial beats to them so that they felt comfortable. And then it evolves. And, nobody thought the war was going to be, 2 years plus. So, in one of the drafts I did have, we would all go back, like the end of the movie was we were going to go back with Dima and Vitaly to a true free Ukraine again. And, we would have food together as like this bigger family in Ukraine. And someday we will do it. It's just, we didn't get to do it for the movie. But yeah, you kind of let life evolve. And, there are nights where I didn't sleep because I would be concerned, like, is it all going to come together? Or all the dots going to connect? And somehow the movie telling gods were very good to me and gave me all the pieces I needed. So
I think we gave you some good casts.
Yeah.
Characters.
Yeah. No, it's true.
No, I know. It's been
everybody's very distinct and interesting and different.
Oh, there's so many interesting characters. And it's, I found it to be, as it unfolds, it becomes very heart-wrenching. Very heart-wrenching in the sense of just how much in crisis, it is over there. And so many of the people who have come are, from there, but also who are working, have family there. And it's just, I don't know, how do you balance that kind of feeling in the, all the time in the day-to-day?
Well, as I mentioned in the movie, I wear many hats. I should have gone to college for psychology versus economics and finance, because in this business, and the state of the time that we live in now, the hospitality is not a glamorous industry to be in post-pandemic. And the generation, I don't know what generation we're in now, what they call themselves, Generation Z. It's all about me, and so you have to manage people's expectations and personalities, and then during this crisis, their mental health. And it's been a juggle. I got to be honest, but I unfortunately my family's here, safe. I have a successful family business, and I've tried to do my best to give back. And I know that these people, my staff and the Ukrainians, are suffering so much more. And we take simple things for granted by walking out in the street and on a sunny day and enjoying the sun on our face and getting a cup of coffee without having to hear sirens or worrying that I got to run into a bunker. So I keep things in perspective. Yeah, I might have a bad day if somebody cut me off, or a homeless man, kicked me in the subway or something. I think there are bigger issues, and that we just try to keep things in perspective.
Yeah, but easier said than done.
Well, maybe I'm still looking for a therapist.
We got
This might be my therapy session.
yeah, 15 more minutes. I mean, you know, I've lived in the area for over 20 years, and so I know that that constant conversation, which has never changed, right, is about change and how everything changes and how hard it is to make it and keep surviving. But it really does feel like after the pandemic, getting through the pandemic, which was hard enough, and now with multiple wars and right and left, things are more and more expensive. It's just a beacon of hope to see you guys still there, really.
Yeah,
so I'm
thank you.
curious about the title.
Yeah, so there's a song at the end of the movie called On the Corner at the Center of the World. And it's a singer-songwriter, Morgan Clamp, out of Toronto, who I've been working with I've known him now for like 14 years. In my last documentary, he did the end credits song. And so the minute Tom and Jason approved, me working on this documentary and telling their story, I called Morgan up and I pitched it to him. I said, I'd love for you to consider writing a song. And he's a total go-getter, and he immediately wrote the song. Now, the story evolved, and there was at one point where I wasn't even sure if I could use it because the movie had taken this total different direction. But then in editing, the tone started to shift back towards the end of the movie the way I intended it to, and it was perfect for the end credits. But when he, that title is in the lyrics, and when I saw that, it caught me right away. And I said to him, would you mind if maybe I use that as part of the title? He said, oh, yeah, whatever you want to do. And we'd gone through a couple different titles. At one point, it was called Meet Me at the Rainbow. There was like 2 or 3 different renditions. And then at the end of it, I came back to Veselka, the rainbow on the corner at the center of the world. And it's lengthy. You don't see it on the marquee. It's too long. But it's funny how many people love it and feel it's very lyrical. And I'll say, oh, well, funny enough, it connects to the song at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate for who we are.
Yeah.
It kind of sums up what Veselka is.
Yeah, absolutely. You have been in this, definitely a hub and a center in downtown New York, for sure, I would say. So the film was finished. How did you decide it was finished, and when?
The paint is still wet on the house. Like, it literally was finished, 5 weeks ago? It's crazy. We premiered at Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and originally I had proposed to the guys that I'd be done and out in the world with it by like November even. And then it's just, it's a smaller movie. I'm kind of a one-man band on a lot of the process, so I just said, I'm going to need more time, but I always said we got to get it out before the commemorations. We talked about early February and other things, and then it was like kind of the true deadline would be when we released it, which was the day before the commemoration, which is Friday, February 23rd. And, year 2 of the war mirrored what happened in year 1, so there wasn't any reason in year 2 to kind of reopen up the edit. And I had been editing anyway all the way up till, like October or thereabouts, and then we had all the finishing, like creation of music, visual effects, and that takes a really long time and a lot of back and forth. But just kind of jumping ahead for a sec, what was really wonderful is the movie opened in Ukraine first. Oh. So on February 22nd, it was in 4 cities across 6 cinemas in Ukraine. And it ran until they do their scheduling a little different, but they did 1 week, like Thursday to Thursday or Thursday to Wednesday. And in the theaters, I was told by Vitaly, whose dad actually went on opening night in Kyiv, he said that typically during the war, if you see 10 people plus in a theater, that's a huge amount of people at the cinema given the war. That opening night, he said there was like 60 to 70 people in the theater, and every night we basically had that number. And for me as a storyteller, obviously, your goal is always to get as many people to see or hear your story, and for it to reach the core audience outside of New Yorkers, like, that means the world to me.
Sure, that's wonderful.
And I hope it has a big impact on them.
Yeah, I'm sure it did and will.
Thank you.
I'm sure. And so what happens next with it, we hope?
Streaming, Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount, Plus, any of these, I have relationships with all of them in some capacity, and Netflix, my last documentary was on Netflix for many years, and Turner Classic Movies, and now Criterion Channel. So, there's definitely going to be a home for it. It's just a question of timing, and how they're programming things. But I have no doubt the world will see it soon.
Yes, and that seems like it's been a great response already here in New York.
Yeah, it's people. I mean, I highly recommend to anyone listening, don't wait for streaming. Go see it with an audience. And I'm not saying that as like some sort of a sales maneuver. Like, it's a better movie than I thought I had. And you go and watch it with an audience, and they tell you how much they love it in like the subtlest ways, and then in moments you were not expecting to get a reaction, you get like the wildest reactions, from applause to huge amounts of laughter, and they're so in it. And so I really recommend seeing it with a big group of people. It's something else.
That's so sweet. So I recommend doing the same. So Tom and Jason, I'm curious if there's anything, now that you're at the end of the shooting process. I know you're doing lots of press and stuff now, but if there was anything that surprised you or caught you off guard, or something that you weren't expecting during the process.
I was a little surprised when the movie started. I'm sorry, when the war started, we got inundated with press. All the major press came the first few days of the war. And it kind of made me realize that Veselka is thought of as the center of Ukrainian community, the Ukrainian life in New York. And I kind of felt a pretty strong sense of responsibility also, that people were looking to us to help, to come up with a solution, to suggest a solution. And then the outpouring of donations and support, and I mean it's still ongoing. We're still really busy. Some of the interest has dropped off, which is disturbing, but people are still coming out and showing support. And, we just hope this war ends favorably sometime soon.
I'm going to be selfish here and say I've never realized the camera adds the 20 pounds, as they say. Maybe
it's only supposed to be 10.
So I got to eat less pierogies. I think that was the tell-all from my side. But no, I mean, jokingly, my takeaway. What was I surprised? I mean, you don't realize the familial relationships when you work with family, and telling the story and realizing what we've been through and seeing it on the screen and realizing what my grandfather went through. Obviously, I was aware of the history, and then what my father went through and growing up in the business. We might not have been as communicative as we could have been or should have been, but now that we're able to tell our story, and him learning from him and still having him here to advise and to be part of this familial business for 70 years. I mean, I'm very grateful to that, and I just can't give enough credit to what Tom mentions at the end of the movie. I mean, I don't know, what my grandfather would say if he saw what we are doing today, but I'm very fortunate to have role models of them too. I only wish that I can fill those shoes.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I think most important stories are very, very powerful and healing for everybody involved, for the audience and for the main characters.
And if I could add to what you were just saying, I learned obviously so much about the three generations as we were together, and to me, it's like each person was the right person for each era of the business. Each, whether it was the detail-oriented Tom or the community leader in Vladimir, bringing the people together in the neighborhood, and then you have Jason, who's like this surrogate dad and brother to so many people, but also is detail-oriented by the training of his dad. So it's like, and the backdrop for each scenario was perfect for who each man
the timing,
is, and the timing. And I think that's what's given it longevity. It was, the right men at the right era, each step of the way.
Can I ask you, I know this might be a giveaway, but I thought it was a very perfect, sweet, last shot.
Oh, yeah.
How did you decide on that? How did that happen? And could you describe it?
Sure. So, we introduce Jason's daughter, Sophia.
That shot you're talking about?
Yeah. She appears a few times in Act 1, and even Jason comments at times, sort of paralleling his youth with his dad. Like, he says, I'm here so much, I don't see my daughter as much as I'm, here at the restaurant. And so, when he was 13, Jason comes to the restaurant, starts working. Well, his daughter is now 13. And so at the end of the movie, the phone rings after the end credits. And you hear her say, "I'll get it, Poppy." And she picks up the phone. It reveals her, and she picks up the phone. She says, just as Jason does earlier in the movie, "Hello, this is Veselka. How may I help you?" And then she passes it over to her dad. So it teases the maybe the next generation of, when we do the sequel 30 years from now.
Well, and the premise was all along a homage to my father, and maybe this will be an opening for my daughter to maybe create something 30 years or whenever, maybe not 30 years, 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
Sophia, no pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, she is a theater buff, so she loved being a part of this project.
Good. Well, I'm glad we could end it on a happy note.
Yeah.
So tell us where to see it, for how much
Great.
longer, what we hope, where else we can see
Sure.
it, and what to.
So in New York, it's at the Village East, just 3 blocks from Veselka on 12th Street and 2nd Avenue. In Los Angeles, at the Laemmle NoHo 7. In New Jersey, at the Burnsville Cinema 3. And this week is a big weekend because, it's very rare for small movies like this to get a second week, which we did, which is amazing. But if we can have a really great tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, we could get a third week. So
Okay.
everybody come out. Don't wait. Everybody always says, "Oh, wait for streaming." Don't wait for streaming.
You want to see this on a big screen.
Yeah, you want to see it
with
on
the
the big
group.
screen. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
sure.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, and also we should add, actually, they're running a great promotion, if I can mention this.
Please.
If you bring your ticket to the theater, you get $5 off your meal.
To the restaurant.
What did I say?
Theater.
To the we're not serving. You're not serving food at the theater. Yeah, you have to go back to the restaurant with your ticket. You get $5 off, and then you guys, if you want to talk about your.
Well, we created a special menu, a set menu, something similar to what during Restaurant Week. There's a prefix for $30. You get an appetizer, an entree, and a choice of a dessert for $30. We're calling it a movie menu set price. So until next week, until the end of the run of the movie, the doc, we're going to offer this menu. So
Fantastic.
you have a great excuse to come for a bite, either before or after, and then see the movie.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck
Thank you.
with it all.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for a beautiful story, and I'll keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.